Which DAW or DAW is the best? And this is one question that's going to divide everybody. There's no real right or wrong answer to this. I always say the same thing every time someone asks me this question. I say the same thing, and that is the best DAW for you to use is the one you know, right? And that's that. Look, that is the right answer, because for me, the best DAW to use is Pro Tools, because I know it. I know everything about it, right? I tried to use Logic about 2-3 months ago. I tried to learn it, and I got to grips with kind of the basics of it, and I know it kind of pretty much off by heart. But for me, it's nowhere near as good as Pro Tools. That's not to say that Logic isn't good or isn't as good as Pro Tools. It's the fact that I know everything there is to know about Pro Tools, because I've been using it for 20 years or 15 years, however long it is. Whereas Logic, I used it for a week, 2 weeks, and that was only from a production kind of perspective. So it was inferior to Pro Tools because I only knew 5% of what it was capable of doing, whereas I know 99% of what Pro Tools can do. So Pro Tools is the door for me, but I can guarantee you it is not the door for everybody, right? But look, here's the thing with Pro Tools. Pro Tools is brilliant for mixing, for mastering, anything, editing, where you've got to look at waveform. It is, for me, it's superior in its visuals, and there's a lot of things that I much prefer to Pro Tools. And when I use or look at other DAWs, I'm like, oh, I couldn't do that and that and that I do in Pro Tools so quickly on that DAW. And that's why I like Pro Tools. That's why I use Pro Tools. But that's not to say it's the best DAW. Trust me, if you are a producer, right, and you are just producing music, Pro Tools ain't the DAW for you. It really isn't. I mean, you're talking like they only do, I don't even think they do perpetual licenses anymore. It's so expensive. It's ridiculously expensive. I mean, I think I'm paying maybe £80 a month for Pro Tools just in this room. And then I've got 2 other studios running Pro Tools, and I've got my computer at home. It works out probably about £250 for various different studios, that just what we have here. So, you know, the majority of people, that is a rip-off to the kind of, you know, the independent artist at home kind of thing. You should be buying Fruity Loops, right? FL Studio. You get FL Studio, you buy it, you get unlimited lifetime updates. I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, you buy it. That's how software should work. Well, no, it shouldn't. That's a really good deal. It shouldn't work like that, because major updates should be paid updates, because what it does is it pushes money into the development stage. So development is done a lot quicker because there's money being made in development. But I get why Fruity Loops and FL Studio, they do that, and it's brilliant that they do that. Logic, I think I paid about £179, maybe £179 or £174. You know, it's not a lot to own a really good DAW, and that's what you own. You don't have to pay that every month, whereas, you know, Pro Tools you do. But to answer the question is, what DAW's the best? It's the DAW that you know the best. If you know how to do everything in one DAW, that's the DAW for you. I mean, if you're watching this and you know yourself, if let's say you know Cubase, and then you think, oh, I'm gonna switch over to Logic, and then you start trying to use Logic. Cubase and Logic are very different. Pro Tools and Logic are very different. Pro Tools, Cubase are very different. They're all very, very different. Each one has slightly different pros and cons. So you will know how much of a challenge it is to move over to something else and use new shortcuts, use new ways of going about things. There's all these different things to take into account, and I see these debates online. I see them on Facebook groups all the time. What DAW's the best, and this person will say that DAW and that one and say that DAW. And basically, it's like the whole speaker debate. Like if someone says, what speakers should I buy? What speakers do you recommend? Everybody recommends their speakers because, well, why wouldn't you? It's like, this is my recommendation based on the fact that I have them, I use them. That's my recommendation. Whereas I take a different perspective in the sense that if someone was to say to me, which DAW do you recommend buying? I'd say to them, well, if you're on a Mac, I'd say go and buy Logic. Logic is the logical DAW to buy if you're on a Mac. If you're on anything else, I would say go down the route of, have a look at all the other ones. You've got Cubase, you've got Fruity Loops or FL Studio, you've got Studio One. All of those are good. There's no definitive one that is better than the others. They all have their pros and cons. And one thing to look at when if you're looking at selecting a DAW, which one to use, look at what it comes with. If you're starting out and you've got nothing, it's all about what comes stock with it. So like Pro Tools comes stock with a load of rubbish, to be honest. It really does. I mean, since buying Pro Tools, and I've very, very rarely used anything stock in Pro Tools. Whereas I know lots of people who have Logic who run stock plugins in Logic all the time. And they look great, and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with them. Pro Tools, on the other hand, it comes with a load of rubbish, to be honest. It comes with the Air plugins and the plugins that come on. It's not great. So it's not like you get Pro Tools and you've got a load of really good, exceptional plugins to use. You haven't. You've got to populate it with all your third-party plugins, which is fine because they are. The third-party plugins, majority of the time, they are better than anything you'll get stock with a DAW. So, yeah, I mean, if you're on a Mac, I'd say Logic's the best DAW. But then that's debatable because, you could use any others, really. And Pro Tools on a Mac, and it all comes down to personal preference. Basically, the one that you use and understand 100% is the best DAW for you to be using. So, for me, Pro Tools, best DAW. That's the one for me to use because I know it so well. I'm far quicker using Pro Tools than I am using any other DAW, and that's because my hands, it's like second nature. It's like I've been doing it for so long that my hands just I can use mouse and jog wheel, and I'm like, I'm flying around. But for me to jump onto Logic, it was very different because the scrolling was different. Everything was different. So, yeah, all right. Best DAW is the DAW the best. And I mean, that most probably won't cause too much debate, but I feel like there's still so much debate online of which DAW is the best, and it's not a case of one's better than the other. One has better features than the other one for certain things. That one has better features for that for other things. It's I don't get involved in these debates, but that's my input into this whole debate.